Welcome to For the Record. I'm Janelle Hall. Today I speak with one of Pittsburgh's top emergency responders. Bureau Fire Chief Daryl Jones takes me through his career and talks about challenges he's faced along the way. For people who have never had the chance to meet you, you are in charge of what, more than 600 firefighters?
It's about 712 firefighters.
Including the city of Pittsburgh and now Wilkinsburg.
Yes.
What's the hardest and the best part of your job?
The best part of the job is dealing with the people.
Yeah.
And the hardest part of the job is trying to help people manage the tragedy that they may have suffered. So being empathetic is a big part of the job, is a big part of what any first responder must be. But sometimes it's difficult. You carry a lot with you because the trauma that they're going through spills over. It can cause some difficulties for you as well.
So often on the news, we see the flames and we see the firefighters go in, but it's you that are there to firsthand see the pain, as you mentioned. You and the firefighters who are the ones trying to save someone's home, which is such an emotional thing.
It is, and especially you figured you have everything that all your worldly possessions, all the valuables in your home, and it might not be something monetary like jewelry, but pictures of grandparents and great-grandparents and other relatives and other memorabilia or mementos that you were thinking about and that you cherished, and here they are, they're gone. So we take that seriously. We know it's a traumatic event, and we want to make sure that we are taking care of you, the person, the constituent that we have to deal with, our customer, and we also have to make sure we take care of ourselves.
Yeah. You know, I wasn't sure what you were going to say about that in terms of maybe the most difficult would be managing the people, but I think it's refreshing for people to hear that empathy is still there after all this time. You've been in this for what, 4 decades?
Almost 4 decades.
Yeah. So 40 years.
Yes,
almost as a
about
firefighter.
39 years now. So
take me back to how it all started. Aliquippa, right?
Aliquippa.
Yeah.
So I had just gotten out of the service, and I was working as a security guard at the nuclear power station, which was I felt I had more value than that. My job was to sit there at a section of fence with a radio and a 3-ring binder that had some post orders in it, a nightstick, and a little thing of mace like you might carry on your keychain. And that section of fence is where the alarm didn't work. So it was my job was to scream in the radio that terrorists or somebody was coming over the fence before they killed me. All right, so yeah, it didn't take long to figure out that this wasn't the place for me. So the Aliquippa Fire Department was testing, and I took the test and got hired, and I never in my life thought I'd be a firefighter. My goal was to maybe do that for about 4 to 6 years. I wanted to finish my degree and then move on to whatever future I thought I would have. And I had a completely different perception of firefighters. I said, yeah, what's a great job. While they're sitting around watching TV and playing checkers, I can be studying, and every once in a while you get to drive the truck fast. How cool is that? And that was my frame of mind when I tested. Quickly changed.
Why and how did that quickly change?
Well, on October the 10th of 1987, I had a structural fire where I lost 3 kids. And I was on the job full time for about 2 months at that time. And it changed my life. Here I was in Aliquippa, this town that was struggling economically because the mills had closed and there was all this. And Aliquippa technically couldn't afford to have a career department, but couldn't afford not to have one. And I felt that because I didn't do my job, I didn't rescue those children, that I failed those children, my family, myself, and my community. It was, like I said, it was a life-changing event. So my pendulum swung from that point on. I became a student of the fire service and firefighting. I eventually did finish my bachelor's degree and then my master's and then my doctorate. I am adamant about risk reduction and fire prevention, especially when it comes to children. I've lost a lot of children in my career, and I feel each and every last one of them, even though some of them I didn't know, but it's very painful, and that's what drives me. That was my motivation. So,
I think for some people that might be so traumatic that they would turn away from the career and maybe look elsewhere. What made you stay in?
Stubbornness,
Yeah.
and I remember I was struggling really hard with it. I was going down a path of destruction. It was coming. I sought counseling. My counselors were Jack Daniels and Jim Beam. So not very productive, but they did numb the pain, And one day my dad grabbed me and says, we need to have a talk, And he used to, when we were kids growing up, he would say, come on in the basement, I need to have a talk with you. That means you were in serious trouble. So you would just start crying.
Taking those steps extra slow, right?
Yeah. So now here I am, I'm 27 years old, and I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and my dad says, come on in the basement, we need to talk. And I'm thinking, things aren't gonna work out the way you think they are down here. But I went down, and my dad was a very strong individual. Both my parents were, and he had one of those talks with me that only a father can have with a son. And it was, he just told me, he says, these are the rules of the game. This is the way things work. You can play to win, or you can just roll over and die. He says, I want to know what your choice is, and I want to know right now. So I said, well, I choose to fight and win. He says, okay, then develop the plan. So the plan was, from that point on, how can I prevent this from happening? And you never know the success you have when you're doing fire prevention. So I see these young kids sometime, and they come in and want to be the fire. Why you want to be in the fire service? I want to save lives, Okay, you want to be in fire prevention. And what? Yeah, because it's not like Chicago Fire. I've been on here nearly 40 years. I have one person that I pulled out of a fire that's still alive and walking around today. Recovered a lot of bodies, but only one. So it doesn't happen very often, But no one knows the outreach or the extent of effectiveness of a fire prevention, because no one calls 911 and says, I almost had a fire. But because the fire department was here and they talked to me, it didn't happen. So it's hard to quantify. So therefore, nobody knows what the outcome is. I just have to believe that the efforts that's been put in by my people here in the city and those who I had left behind in Aliquippa is making a difference.
So you grew up in Aliquippa, served Aliquippa. Walk me through how you ended up in Pittsburgh.
So I was teasing Chief Mike Huss. He was the fire chief back then. I saw him somewhere at a meeting, a regional meeting or something, and I was teasing him about something, and he says, I'm probably gonna be looking for an assistant chief. And okay, so I didn't pay it any attention. But then the Mount Lebanon, their chief, D'Arcangelo, had retired, and they were looking for a new chief. So I applied, just to see what would happen. And I went through their process, and Mike Huss was one of the evaluators going through the process. So he gets done with the process. He says, they're probably not going to hire you here. Big surprise. Okay, he goes, but I'm going to be looking for an assistant chief, so keep that in mind. So that was the second time he had mentioned it. I said, all right. I was teaching a class to the Jefferson Hills Volunteer Fire Department, and one of the students there, young guy, had his computer laptop up, and he says, wow, Pittsburgh's looking for an assistant chief. And so I walk over, I look over his shoulder. I said, yeah. I said, everybody take a 10-minute break. I pushed him out the way, sat down at his laptop, completed the application. And that's how I ended up in Pittsburgh, has come on in July of 2007 as an assistant chief. And in September of that year, I was elevated to chief. Now every time that guy sees me, he's a lot older. Now he goes, you owe me. And I'm like, yeah, I owe you, all right. Especially if it's been a bad day. I'm like, this is all your fault.
Yeah, right? Still ahead on For the Record. Fire Chief Daryl Jones talks about some of the toughest emergency responses he's seen and why one wasn't a fire. Welcome back to For the Record. In the next part of my interview with Pittsburgh Bureau Fire Chief Daryl Jones, I ask him about some of the most difficult emergency situations he's faced. What has been one of the toughest firefights that you've experienced from a managerial standpoint in the city?
Oh, there's been a couple. One of the events that come up was the Midtown Towers fire, which was a fatal fire. Don't remember the exact year, maybe 2018 or something like that. We lost one person in that fire, and the building construction, the high-rise fires like that, they're designed to contain fires for about an hour to 3 hours, depending on the rating. And this one didn't contain fire for anything. It's jumping floors, and I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? Then I hear a Mayday call, and the Mayday is when a firefighter's in trouble, and he calls for a Mayday. And that puts a whole new different spin and stress on the incident commander and the rest of the team, because they're going to go get their own, and you have to make sure you manage this properly, because while everybody's running to assist the firefighter, the fire's still doing its thing. You know? So we didn't have just one, we had two of those, two Mayday calls during the course of that fire. And that was one of the things that prompted me to say that these residential high-rises should be retrofitted with sprinklers, which that ordinance didn't gain any traction, but that's one of the reasons why I believe that. Other than fires, I think the other major call that was very stressful to me was for the Tree of Life shooting. I was with my family at the Union Hall because firefighters was doing their Coats for Kids campaign, where they were giving winter coats and hats and gloves. And my family at the time loved to participate in that. And so I get a phone call from my deputy chief that there's an active shooter in Squirrel Hill. So I said, well, text me the address. And I find a ride for my family to get home. I jumped in my car and I called, my boss at the time was Public Safety Director Wendell Hesrick. I called him, he was out of town. Did he know about this? He said, yeah, he's 4 hours out. So I get up there on scene, another person from public safety comes up to me and says, Wendell's out of town. I said, yeah, I just got off the phone with him, he's 4 hours out. And he goes, well, his deputy's out of town too. And I'm like, excuse me? What do you mean? Why? Well, they didn't know that Wendell was out of town. So right then I turn around, and maybe from here to that camera over there is Mayor Peduto, Chief of Staff Dan Gilman, Director of Operations Guy Costa, all looking at me like, you know, this, I call it the Baby Yoda look, right? And I said, Public Safety Director's out of town, I'm acting Public Safety Director, I'll have incident command. And so I assumed command at that incident. Now I am not a police officer, I'm not a SWAT team member, I'm a Marine, so if you give me a weapon, I can shoot it, but that's not my job here. So my job as incident commander was to make sure that the police had what they needed to get their job done. and to assume responsibility if anything went wrong here. So that's what I did. I was there for maybe 4 or 5 hours before Director Hesrick showed up, in which case I transferred command over to him. And just watching them bring the injured people out was just unbelievable. And hearing the gunfight going on inside the building from outside, you know, and the fire, the return fire, and kudos to the medics who, when this guy comes out, they still didn't treat him as if he was a bad guy. They treated him, took him and saved his life. You know, kudos to the medics for that. Kudos to law enforcement for what they did. And while I'm standing there, right after I assumed command, maybe 10 minutes later, my cell phone rings, and it has this weird number on it, and I don't know. So I just answered, "Chief Jones, can I help you?" And this heavy accented voice, this heavy Jewish accent. You know, "Chief Jones, my name," I don't remember, and he was calling me from Jerusalem because he had family members here in Pittsburgh who attended the Tree of Life and wanted to know if I had any information. And I'm like, "How did you get this number?" But that's not important.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, "I don't have any information now," but that did trigger that we're going to have family members and they're going to need assistance and the reunification and things like that. So that gave me a whole branch of stuff to work in, to get the emergency management involved, to get the Red Cross involved, to bring other things. So I let law enforcement do what they do. I had other support doing what they did, but that one is probably going to be my time here in Pittsburgh, one of my biggest calls. That I hope it doesn't get any worse than that.
Still ahead, Chief Jones talks about the efforts to bring more diversity to Pittsburgh's Bureau of Fire. Welcome back to For the Record. Let's go back now to more from my interview with Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire Chief Daryl Jones. We talk about representation, and I know that you've talked a lot about the importance of diversity within the fire department. So before you talk about that part, let's talk about the significance of you having this position to lead the fire department as a black man, the first black man to lead the fire department here in Pittsburgh.
And that was the first thing came out of the reporter's mouth the day I got sworn in as chief. And I remember my answer was, "I hope to be remembered as a good fire chief," and that the fact that I was African American is just a side note. Yeah. That is my goal, and I tried to strive for that. So we are in an environment, unfortunately, where the term DEI has been converted into a 4-letter word, and I don't understand why. I think a lot of people associate diversity with lowering of standards, and that's not true. As Mike Tomlin says, the standard is the standard. I'm not trying to lower the standards. I'm trying to get people to realize what a great job this is and what an opportunity it is and what a great career it is. I mean, do you want to make a good living? We have that. Our guys work 24 on and 72 off. That means they're only scheduled maybe 8 days a month. That gives you 22 days to do whatever you want. Go back to school, spend it with your family, get another part-time job, whatever you want to do, that you have that time. We have great benefits, all right? And the salary is very competitive. So why not come over and give this a shot? And true, it's not meant for everyone, but there shouldn't be any obstacles to anyone coming on board, and to say that you can't do it because you're a female is just wrong. I have several women on the job now, not nearly enough, and I will go down a burning hallway in the middle of the night with them on a hose line every single day without fail, without giving it a second thought. One, because I know the training that they've had, and they've completed that training successfully, so they know what they're doing. Two, I know what kind of people they are.
Coming up in just 2 minutes, my final question for Pittsburgh Bureau Fire Chief Daryl Jones. Welcome back to For the Record. Before we go, I had one last question for Pittsburgh Bureau Fire Chief Daryl Jones. Take a look. You know, when you think about your life, your legacy, and your career, how do you hope to be remembered?
Well, I want to be known for being a good father. I have a 15-year-old son. That's the love of my life. And I want to be a good father. And I'm learning that that is somewhat difficult. Nobody gave me any directions on that. Try to be like my dad, that I take that example and I take my brother's example. So I'm working on that part. My legacy as far as the Fire Bureau go, or the fire services, I'm hoping that I left it better than I found it. That's what I want to do. I want to say that the Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire is better off for having me as opposed to not me being here. And I guess history will determine whether that's the case or not.
That's all for today's edition of For the Record. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. We hope you have a great week. We'll see you again next Sunday morning at 11 a.m.